And she said, it is so profoundly unkind to not tell the truth. It is so profoundly unkind. You think you're sparing someone by dancing around a subject, and in fact, then they're operating with a fiction.
In a world that often pulls us apart, More in Common brings us back to what matters. Hosted by Gerren Taylor and Keith Richardson, this isn't your average podcast. It's a challenge to think deeper, question louder, and grow further. At More in Common, we work with NFL teams, tech companies, and professionals across industries to improve communication and foster compassion. And with a focus on emotional intelligence, we aim to bring a wealth of experience to help you navigate the complexities of human connection. We've never been more connected and yet more isolated. We want to explore the roots of that tension and offer a way back to what we all need: real human connection. Enjoy the show.
He needs
gray hair and a top hat.
Yeah, you need like a Mr. Peanut alternate outfit.
Should I? Here.
Mr. Peanut. Yeah, you need a monocle, a cane. I think he had a cane. Very shiny black shoes. No, I can't. You must wear that for the rest of this podcast. What does it say on it, please?
It's
sir?
Twisted Tea.
I want to know what you had to do to get that.
Nothing. We had like 7 of them. Yeah.
All right. It wasn't like you had to go twerk on a bar in Ohio or something?
I know.
No.
Oh, see, they missed out. They missed out. I would have made you work for it.
All right.
You want this hat, son?
All right.
Okay, you just reminded me. Can I tell you guys something? It's totally inappropriate, but I feel like you can handle it.
We're family.
So one of the other things I really love in my sense of free-spiritedness this last few years is I've started going to nudist resorts on occasion because I just think it's so freeing and relaxing. And okay, so that hat just reminded me let me put it delicately. There are very strict rules in these places so that it's, not a free-for-all, not a complete orgy, not right. And so they have rules, and most men wear a hat like that, even though they're wearing nothing else, because should anything arise, you are to cover yourself with your hat. And that is like the hat they use. And so you put that hat on, and I was just like, oh my God, that's the hat they all wear. Maybe he got it at the nudist colony. Like, I don't know.
But now there's an image for everybody listening.
Keith and that hat have a future is what I'm hearing. That's right. This week, guys, welcome back to the More in Common podcast. I'm Gerren Taylor. That's Keith Richardson. And our guest this weekend with the hat trick is Jen Oliver, a speaking coach and podcast host who helps people stop performing and start connecting. She's the founder of Speaking Real Communications, which works with leaders and creatives on authentic presence, hosts the Listen for Real podcast, and her mission is helping 1 million voices speak truthfully, courageously, and with self-trust. Jen, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks. I'm really enjoying this already. I mean, if they could have been here 5 minutes prior, God help them.
Yeah, the fact that we got to the hat thing after what was happening before is just,
Yeah, you're a little bit crafty with when you decide to start the podcast. That's pretty good.
It's just real crafty.
But I'm nothing if not honest. Yeah.
It's a thing I do now. I like to get people, on their toes. But one of the things that we definitely brought you here for is what your mission that you're currently on. Now, you have a great background, obviously, as both helping people, practice, become better speakers and communicate better. But in our prep for this, you were talking about your new mission about lying. And I wanted you to kind of describe what's happening there for our audience and tell us a little bit more.
And let's set the groundwork just a little bit, not to lie more, but to lie less.
I was gonna let her work that out.
I want to tee it up a little bit.
Who knows?
What are we doing? Our mission is to lie.
Yeah. Yes, to lie, unabashedly lie at every turn.
Yeah. Well, we have enough of that.
It is. I've always prized myself. I mean, all of my branding, everything I do is about giving voice to truth, getting connected to our essential self. finding our truest voice, right? And then a couple months ago, I was reading a book by Martha Beck. It's called Finding Your North Star. And she referenced a challenge she gave herself many, many, many years ago. And it was she was going to embark on a year of no lying. And what she meant by that was, again, not that she nor I are compulsive liars and we're really trying to clean up our act. It was more of a function of self accountability and taking a deeper look at the things we say or do. And so it isn't so much that we necessarily lie when someone asks us a direct question. It's looking at, did I even just say yes to something I didn't want to do when it really was a no? And so that's a lie. She used the example of having a strained relationship with her parents, and they were saying, when are you going to come visit again? We really miss you. And she was thinking to herself, I can't lie right now. And she said, instead of going, yeah, I miss you guys too, which wasn't really the case, she goes, I miss the notion of a healthy parental unit or something. She had to say the true thing right there. And I thought that's really interesting. It's a great distillation process.
Yeah.
And I felt really called to it, that this is a challenge I needed to accept for myself and then notice where it took me, because suddenly it illuminates all the areas that you sugarcoat or you dance around the subject or you just stay silent. And it doesn't mean I'm supposed to open the kimono and say everything, although it appears I do, since based on our conversations here already, I'm
we just
divulging
talked about nudist colonies,
mushroom journeys, and nudist
I
resorts.
wasn't gonna
So,
touch the open the kimono like
yeah.
throughput between the the nudist colony stories, but I
Yeah, I'm
do.
not exact. I've always been a pretty open book, but it's really a great distiller of things, and it's illuminating. So I've been on that since beginning of the year. So it's been about a month.
Which is amazing because I mean, all of us at some point, especially like the example you just gave, we all tend to manage our perceptions in this way, right? We edit ourselves or we soften the edges of what we're thinking or what's really going on behind our thought, and not really telling the core truth about how we're experiencing life or the people around us and what that all means. So, upon taking this challenge, can you tell us a story of one of your moments where you were like, you know what, I gotta keep it 100 in this, and let's see what happens?
Yes. Okay. So there's been a number of things in the last few weeks I've turned down as far as invitations to do things, expectations of I'm going to be at this event, I'm going to do that thing. Um, there is a trip I want to take that's been a bucket list trip, potentially this summer. And I knew immediately that when that idea came, the person I'm dating might really feel like, well, wait, you're going to go do this trip and be gone for a few weeks and I'm not invited, because I have no intention of inviting this person. It's very much a personal trip that feels important to me. And yeah, so I didn't even go there with, oh, well, maybe you would want to go, but oh, you probably wouldn't. Like, I didn't even play the game. Whereas old Jen would have played the game to spare him his feelings. And what's happened instead is I'm getting better and better at saying what is true for me and giving the other person the dignity of their response. And they're a grown up with their own tools, and allow them to work with not a fiction, but what's true for me. And we'll see where that goes. So it's stuff like that I've noticed in the last few weeks that, yeah, I didn't even pretend or start to dance around it. It was more of a, I'm really thinking about this. This could be something vital that is important, and this is the season to do it. And we'll see where it goes.
There a lot of ways to go here. Trying to anchor this, because I think there's an element in this of defining the truth relative to what you're saying, in that I'm not going to own your emotional response.
Ooh.
Right. So I'm
Right.
not taking on the burden of your emotional response because of how I'm worried it's going to play out, right? And then what that negative consequence will be back, like, oh, maybe you get angry and jealous. Now I have to deal with that. And then it's like, so it's just easier to look Gerren really close in the face as he zooms in. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, me? How did
It's
I do?
it's just easier to polish the turd, so to speak, so that we don't have to, we just put it over here. And there's a lot of downstream impacts. But then there's the element of, well, I'm just telling you the truth and I'm going to be an asshole about it.
Totally.
So how do you define that truth in this journey in the complexities of that social dynamic and expectations? Because you also don't want to damage the relationship.
Oof, this is such a good question. And I will honestly say this has been part of my own personal deeper work to navigate this. Let me give you an example. Let me answer it by way of this example that came to mind. I believe one of the first times I really understood the power of saying what was true was a number of years ago when I ended my marriage. I knew I did not belong in the marriage, but I felt really responsible to not hurt him. He is a great man. And I just realized, oh, I rushed into this too quick. I got married for all the wrong reasons, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember I was trying to dance around it for a really long time, like a year. I knew almost immediately this was a quick second marriage. My first marriage was 20 years, father of my children. I did not choose that divorce, though it was important. And I really jumped into a second marriage to restore legacy for my kids, which is not a reason to remarry. That said, found a really good man and said, "Here we go." And so I knew pretty quickly, but then I thought, well, you got to make this work because this isn't good legacy for your kids now, a second divorce. And I kept just trying to make it work. And I would tell him, I just want something different. And I remember I want deeper conversations. I want better connection. And he was really trying. And I remember one morning he walked in to the bathroom and he sat down on the tub and he just looked at me and he goes, "I don't know what you want. I'm really trying. I really am trying. And I sense you're unhappy and I don't know what you want." And I started dancing around it again. And then I heard this voice in my head of my a relationship mediator he and I both had. And she said, "It is so profoundly unkind to not tell the truth. It is so profoundly unkind. You think you're sparing someone by dancing around a subject, and in fact, then they're operating with a fiction."
Right.
Okay, so back to your question, how do we discern? There's this one need we have that's kind of codependent. I was uncomfortable with the notion of making him uncomfortable. It was actually very self-serving. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to be responsible for that. I couldn't just trust that, again, give him the dignity of his response and trust that he has resourcing and can do with what he will with this information that I'm giving him that is true. Instead, it was very much about, I don't want to feel bad and feel responsible for hurting someone else, which is super codependent. So to your question, I think we have to check our motives and go, what is the reason I want to tell the truth right now or not tell the truth, more importantly? And is this self-protection? Is it really even about the other person at all? Does that sort of head into the question you're asking?
Yeah, I think it's this navigation of conversation, connection, and communication that is often rooted in these social expectations. I mean, these are the things that we talk about a lot.
Mhm.
But truth, it's this cultural element of I speak my truth. And even that in of itself is flawed in some ways, because to your point, well, what's the motive? Is the motive just to say the words so you feel like you're just being honest regardless of the other person's feelings? Is it I'm not speaking the truth because I'm owning the other person's feelings? Or is
Yeah.
it I'm looking at this situation, this circumstance, this thing, and we have to it's like finding that balance point of I'm reminded of a guest a long time ago. She taught us she's a therapist, and I can't remember what it was. It was the three gates of something,
Mm.
or the three gates of honest, whatever it was. And it's something that has stuck with me
I want to say like
forever.
Mordor, but I know that's wrong.
Yeah, I know, right? I do. I always want to. I think Lord of the Rings every time I say the three gates. But is it true, or is it honest? Is it kind? And is
Yep.
it necessary?
Yes.
Right? Like, just because it's true, or maybe you're being honest, it might not be kind or necessary.
That's actually
And that
something I wanted to.
necessity piece is a key variable there. Go ahead, Gerren.
That's something I wanted to cue in on what Jen was talking about, because I feel like this happens a lot in those relationships where sometimes people are honest, but in a way that's like, did you have to say it like that? Or it's their own fear and nervousness that's behind the expression, and that they, you know what I mean? Like you're saying, the calculated risk. And so they're so uncomfortable sharing this part of themselves that it comes off attacking or like super defensive before you even get into that part of the conversation. Was that something that you had to experience as you grew through this? Or is it something that's not something that didn't really occur for you that much? Because I know it depends on the person.
Yeah, this has definitely occurred for me, and that question of true, honest, necessary. It reminds me of in the rooms of recovery, 12-step recovery. There's a step where you make amends to people, but they're very clear on you do not make an amend when it is going to hurt the other person. So, for example, the person who's had a torrid affair and betrayed his spouse or her spouse wants to get it off their chest because they want to feel better, but it isn't necessary, true, or good, or of benefit. In fact, it's only a greater source of pain. It's not always the best policy, right? So I'm reminded of that, and it goes back to what is both right and true for me. This question of what's right and true for us, but what is also self-serving or not self-serving. I feel like I'm still navigating this, and I'm trying to navigate it from the healthiest possible space. So I don't know that I can answer that. I mean, Keith, do you how do you see that?
I don't know if there is an answer. I
Yeah.
think, like, I pride myself on honesty being a core value. Um, but when I think about it through the lens of the three gates, that necessity piece, who's it necessary for? And why is it necessary is a complicated answer, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, yes. So, total anecdote from yesterday, right? My youngest daughter, she's epileptic, and um, as her doctors will say, it's like the mildest form of the reason she has epilepsy, and we don't need to go into all of that. So when she trips and falls and bonks her head, it's very concerning for us, right? And it's just concerning because we're parents, and she's fine, but she fell last night, and she bonked her cheek, and she was complaining. And my oldest was like, I know it's so concerned. She's 9. So it's so much worse because she has epilepsy. And it's like, and I think kids are a great filter example of this. Because for that comment, yes, it is absolutely true. But because my youngest is, she's sensitive to it. She's 7. It's not kind or necessary to mention, right? So, right, like this nature of figuring it out, but maybe the circumstance requires it to be said, depending on the circumstance. And it's not the easiest thing. And I think what I love about the journey for you as we think about this and talk about it and talk about it for other people is that I find it's far more valuable to fail on this effort and be on the effort than to avoid it altogether, which
Right.
becomes more destructive to both parties in the long term.
Absolutely.
I mean, just the simple fact that
Absolutely.
you're saying I'm trying to do this from the most healthiest perspective. The truth is that we all do it. We either lie about it or we're truthful of it. Some of us can naturally navigate the figure skating that it takes in order to be honest and be real and in a way that's approachable and not, you know, blaming the other person for how you feel about things and all the other pitfalls that come with, because it is naturally selfish. It's how you feel. It's what you want. It's all of the things that have to do with you. And so how you communicate that to the other person, your partner, friend, child, or whatever, is really tantamount to how you are able to navigate that balance yourself. And a lot of people are uncomfortable in general with being selfish, especially like you were saying in the relationship, the current relationship thing, where you're like, I'm going on this trip for me. I like you. You're cool, but you're not coming. You know what I mean? And that has to be shared in and like you said, a delicate enough way so that they can do with that information what they need to do with that information. But this is what's happening.
Yeah. Well, and you talked earlier about connection. I just sense that every untruth, whatever form they take, so I'm just going to call it untruth for now, it's like that acts as a barrier or a veil that gets in the way of true connection. And so maybe framing it from that perspective and going, will this create a barrier, a veil,
Mm.
or will this remove some so that we can have a better chance at connection? Because really, what's the goal? If we're in relationship, why are we communicating? Why are we in conversations? I would hope it is because we all seek to create better connection. Why are we listening to someone deeply? What it's all about connection. So if we look at it through that lens, that shifts it for me a little bit as I'm
I
listening
I
to you say it.
I love that, and I think if I could add, because I'm thinking about two things, and I have a question on the second. But I think about your relationship for a year. Like the connection was not forming because there was dishonesty between the two of you, and so that veil just get thicker and thicker and thicker. And the honesty didn't necessarily bring you two closer together, but it created a sense of, I'm sure there's pain, there's struggle. But in those moments, there is a sense of peace that even if it hurts the relationship, it's it's the whole, like, is it better to get divorced when you have kids and have an unhealthy relationship?
Hmm.
I'm sorry, get divorced when you have kids and sever that unhealthy relationship, or to keep up the facade and make it worse. Like, this is I don't think there's a purity test in that answer. And
No.
I think there's no purity test in honesty, even though this modern movement of just speak your truth. I think there's an underlying purity to it that is destructive at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting. We can really double down on this notion of truth and make it really black and white. And that can be super destructive. And I think about one of the reasons I pursued this antidote to the echo chamber that is my podcast, where I was having conversations with different people, was because I was really in this narrow focus. I was at the time in a very religious construct that was, this is truth, this is the one and only truth, and all others don't match up, therefore they are not truth. And that is so clear to me now that that is so untrue. and that it is so easy to put things in boxes and determine, yes, this is how marriage should be. This is how it should be for your kids. This is what is a healthy marriage. This is why you should. There is absolutely no way we can land on one definitive truth and one way. It's so malleable and different based on the person or the situation or the relationship. And that feels super uncertain and unwieldy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I think I was so drawn to dogma and religion at the time, because it was certainty. And that isn't where I stand now. I cast, no aspersions on anyone that's their jam, but it's not mine anymore.
I mean, I think it's a key factor of human nature is that we try to explain things that have no explanation. And so the answers that are given to you in religion, you're just like, no, it's just like this. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to deal with the uncertainty, and humans don't like that cloudy uncertainty. We don't like to live in that gray area. We like to know.
I mean,
why
that's the hardest.
I earned it, or I deserved it, or whatever. But in reality, the world just doesn't really work that way.
We talk a lot about. I see we have a few minutes left this week, so I don't want to open up a huge can, because we talk a lot about the complexities of the human experience and forming human connection. And what I'm really enjoying about this conversation and this concept is we do like certainty. We like comfort. We like peace, because it's we don't need our body physiologically just releasing cortisol all the time, trying to find and grasp and do all of that. And as simple of a concept as this is, it's a reflection of the complexities that we experience. As we come to an end, I want to wrap on a question that I think embodies a lot of this complexity in a really simple way. It's the cultural element of when the female spouse in a relationship in particular says, "Do I look good in this?" Right?
Damn.
and I'm curious to get your thoughts on what's the answer to that question.
Yeah. Ooh, that just feels like a tripwire, right? I feel for the spouse on the other end of that who has to navigate that so carefully. The answer, again, I'm reminded of an example. A friend of mine, she would snap a picture and then say to her friend, "I don't think you'll like how this came out." She phrased it in such a way that it wasn't, "Oh, you look like crap. You're standing wrong. Oh, this picture makes you look really fat." It was, "I don't think you'll like how this will come out." I think there's a delicate way to answer with, well, how do you want to feel? How do you want to look? And I can tell you, just looks good. I think you look good, baby, all the time. So tell me what you're really asking me right now. Is it about the dress? Is it about because it's going to be in a picture? And I'll give you my best guess, but I think you look good all the time. That's my instinct, is because that's true. I don't know. That's a tough one, because they might be asking from a place of tenderness that morning where they're just feeling really fat and not great. That we all have our days where we just go, "My God, how is this my body? Like, what?" And we just need a little reassurance. And you can't divine, like, "Ooh, this is clearly where she's coming from, and I know the right answer for today," because it may be a different answer than it was for yesterday.
Also true.
I mean, and what I love the way you answered that.
You don't know that "you look good to me always, baby" answer. That's not something right? You do.
But because then the caveat is, does this dress make me look fat? We'll just use that question. That is a different question for sure. Do I look good in this dress? Does this dress look good? And where are we going? And are you going to be around friends? Like, what do you want to achieve in the attire that you're wearing tonight because of those outcomes? And if you ask those questions, I think they're meaningful questions. But to your point, if you're just seeking some validation because we're just having an emotional moment, and I ask you, so what are you trying to do? It's like, I just want you to tell me I look good. And then they like waters it down, right? Like, and it's hard. And the idea that it just say yes could have implications a day, but you told me it looked good. And then everybody said I had this weird thing on the side, and everybody called me out. Why didn't you tell me? And it's and we all want there to be a simple answer. And what I love about where we've come in this portion of this conversation, because it's got to continue, is there is no black and white. There is no, it is true for me in this moment, but yeah, it's
I turn on my inner queer guy and I just go, it's giving raspberry sherbet, honey, and then just move on with life. Just kidding, that doesn't ever work.
Good.
But we are going to come back with Jen Oliver next week and continue this conversation on the truth and how we live it. Keith, prepare yourself, because I think we got some questions for you on the next one too. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to make him freak out. See,
Tables are turning, baby.
This is the More Uncommon Podcast. I'm Gerren Taylor. That's Keith Richardson, and we'll see you all next week.